Afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Stacy King, and I'm with the Maryland Department of Transportation, the Commuter Choice Maryland program. Welcome to our webinar on the financial benefits of telework. Let's see, advance some slides. Okay. So we are really excited to have Sarah Sheppard from the Maryland Department of Commerce join us today. And we're going to let Sarah give you an overview of the Business Telework Assistance Grant, and then we'll talk about the Maryland Commuter Tax Credit and how that applies specifically to telework as an option. And then we'll take your questions. So just some webinar reminders for today. We are recording the webinar. It will be available in a few days. We'll post it to our website. If you have questions, please do use the chat box to type them, and then we'll address them all at the end. And yeah, great. So before we turn it over to Sarah, just a real quick introduction to Commuter Choice Maryland. For anybody who is unfamiliar with us, we're a program through the Maryland Department of Transportation, and we work in partnership with local and regional jurisdictions to provide complimentary consultation to employers who would like to start or expand their commuter benefits program. And we also help make it easier for you to help your employees understand commuting options and transportation options and how to take advantage of all of the benefits, especially financial benefits that are available. And for all the many reasons you might want to partner up with us and take advantage of these this variety of assistance is that all of our assistance is free. So with that, I'll go ahead and turn over to Sarah. And Sarah, you just tell me when you want me to advance the slides.
Sounds good. So I'm Sarah Sheppard. I am with the Department of Commerce, and I am the director of the Office of Telework, as well as Education and Workforce Development. Next slide, please. So the Business Telework Assistance Program is a new program that just received $1 million in the budget for this year. The maximum grant is up to $25,000, and this is to help businesses expand telework capabilities for their employees. So the cap is $25,000. You can apply for however much you need. Some of the questions I have received recently are, what is this an eligible expense? And some of the items are, there is going to be a panel who's going to look through things, and you can put in for however much you need. But from an eligible expense standpoint, if the review panel sees something that doesn't really quite fit what the program parameters are, we can always come back to you and say, well, hey, we can't give you $25,000, but we can give you $23,000 because that $2,000 you requested isn't eligible. So if there's something you're kind of unsure about, I would go ahead and put it in there, and we can always come back and offer a different amount to you. So this grant is really to help the applicants purchase equipment that's necessary to develop and implement telework policies. So that includes hardware, software, technical services such as IT support. It also includes things like upgrading your Zoom subscription or whichever you subscribe to, because I know that those are different annual fees and monthly fees. So there's a lot of different variations of what can be included, and it's really going to be based on need and what makes the most sense for that business once we review your application. But go ahead to the next slide.
Okay.
So a lot of conversation, especially after the shutdown with COVID and a lot of people having to go to telework options, we found quite a lot of benefits for telework. And in this extremely tight and competitive job market, a lot of applicants are looking for a telework option. A lot of applicants don't want to come into the office 5 days a week. So this program is really to help offset those costs of being able to do that, because what we've seen in studies that come out is that it provides employee recruitment and retention. So it makes you more competitive. The employees can relocate if they need to. Preferably, we'd like them to be in Maryland, but they may not live as close. They may have relocated and not live as close to where the office was since they started. We've also found that there's a better work-life balance because you're not in rush hour traffic, you're not doing a large commute potentially, and so that can help with morale for your employees. Then there's also just the stance that happier employees tend to be more productive. So if that is what your employee wants and that is something that you're able to offer because you're in an industry that allows for telework, we know that some industries it's just not possible, but this can help offset some of those costs. Next slide. So the eligibility requirements are pretty broad. One thing is that you need to be in the process of developing a telework policy. So on the Department of Commerce's website and under the Office of Telework Assistance, there is a best practices form. Now, your telework policy doesn't need to be this huge novel of policies, but just kind of going through what we have, and there's tons of examples online. You can even go to the Maryland Department of Budget and Management, and they even have a telework policy for its state employees that you could kind of pick through and see what makes sense for you. It doesn't need to be all inclusive of every kind of situation you might think of, but just a general policy that falls within the best practices that we've established. So you don't have to have your actual telework policy in place. Another piece of this program and what an eligible expense would be is if you need to hire somebody to help you come up with that telework policy. So if you need to hire a consultant or a legal fee to kind of go through your policies, that's also an eligible expense. So you don't have to have that in place, but within a year of receiving your grant, you will need to show that you have a telework policy in place. The other piece is that you need to be an existing business in good standing with the state of Maryland. Now, part of that being in good standing is through SDAT, showing proof that you are in good standing and that you're an active business. And then again, a physical location in Maryland. So this can't just be somebody who does business in Maryland, but actually is located in California. You have to actually have a physical location, and that could even be, your physical location can be a home office. So there's a lot of people who have home offices, that's their business address, not just a home office from you telework, so it's a home office, but some people have offices that their employees report to within their home. That also is a physical location. Okay, so next slide. And if anybody has questions while I'm talking, please feel free to put them in the chat. So the assistance program is, the applications are due Friday, January 6th by 5 p.m. And there is a special email for you to send all those applications to. You can also send questions about the telework program to that email. They will not be reviewed until after the deadline has passed. If there is any missing information that we need, we will reach out to you to get that. But I've been receiving quite a lot of emails asking me if it's been reviewed, when it will be reviewed. And so it's not, everything's reviewed because they're all judged against each other January 6th. So the hope is to have the awards announced by early February. And then I don't know if you're able to pull up the application.
Yes, we can do that. Okay. Can you see the screen okay?
Yes.
Okay.
All right, so if you want to kind of scroll down, we've covered a lot of this. One thing to note, so you can stop there.
Okay.
So one thing to note is that this is for any size business and nonprofit. The only thing is that we were given a charge by the General Assembly that we have to give preference to small businesses. So that's 50 employees and under. That doesn't mean just because you're a large business, you won't get it, but that is what we were charged with, was preference. That's why we're not doing a rolling submission. We're doing it after everybody has submitted. So let's see, you do have to have an unemployment insurance number. You have to have at least one W-2 employee to qualify, but you can use this money for your 1099s. Then there is also, let's see, going down, Legal form of business. So I've got a lot of calls recently because we didn't put nonprofit on there. So if you are a nonprofit, you can put that in one of the boxes, the description boxes, as well as some people don't have NAICS codes, but if you have your industry that you are in, you can put that in if you don't have a NAICS code or you don't know what your NAICS code is. Keep going down. Okay, so again, section 2, we are not looking for anything. We're not looking for a novel. It's just very general of what your business is, what the hurdles have been in implementing telework policy, whether that's you can't afford laptops, offering your employees higher internet speeds as like a stipend, anything like that. And so that's where below there you have provide an executive summary of the equipment needed to purchase. So this again is just a summary of what you think you're going to need. Then you can attach your telework policy if you have one already in place. Again, anticipated impact on staffing positions. This can, kind of give us an idea of whether, your employees need this and ask for that. You can keep going down. Project budget. So again, what your total cost is to implement these telework policies, and then their breakdown of the costs. So some individuals have called wondering how much they should put, or like how they know the numbers. And honestly, it can be as simple as a Google search of how much will 5 Dell computers from Office Depot cost? And you can put that down. It doesn't have to be firm exact numbers, but as long as you show us that that's what you're looking at, those are the projected costs, then that's fine. So again, it has, technical services can be IT or legal services. Okay, go down. All right, so right here, this is the last part really of what I'm going to talk about is you have your use of funds statement, your annual revenue. So what that would be is like the past 2 years. So this current year in 2021, your profit and loss statement would be fine. Your taxes are fine. Those are and your profit and loss statement can be in-house generated. It doesn't have to be from a firm. So again, we're really trying to keep this as easy and accessible to all sizes of businesses and capabilities. But that's kind of the big things that we have been asked, the questions that we've been asked about in the last month or so. So if there's no other questions, I'll hand it over to MDOT.
All right, great. Thank you, Sarah. Really good. Thank you for offering to go through that application too. I think that was really good. Hopefully everyone's appreciated getting a little bit of insight into that process. So I'm going to talk a little bit about still in line with telework, some of the other benefits that are available to employers who are offering telework programs. Specifically, want to focus on the Maryland Commuter Tax Credit. So with the tax credit, this allows businesses, including 501c3 and 501c4 organizations, to claim 50% of the amount of a subsidy that they are providing for their employees' commuting expenses. It's capped at $100 per employee per month. But prior to July 1st, the program, the tax credit only applied to transit, van pool, guaranteed ride home, and parking cash out as benefits that employers are providing. But now, since July 1 and going forward, the options that qualify for the tax credit have been expanded greatly to include carpooling, active commuting, so walking and cycling, multimodal last mile option, and telework. So telework is now a part of that, is an eligible expense to claim the tax credit for. And just a quick overview of what is covered by the commuter tax credit. So when an employer is providing a subsidy to their employee for telework costs, that would include things like prorated cost for internet if they are using internet at home for for work purposes, any computer equipment or telephone equipment or software or supplies that the employee needs to do their job but have not been provided. So if they had to go out and purchase, if they needed to purchase software or something on their own to perform the functions of their job, the employer can subsidize that, and that's an eligible cost. And then also membership to co-working spaces and telework centers. So if you, as an employer, if you're trying to help your employees kind of navigate this new normal, and the remote telework centers are a part of that, you can subsidize their memberships, and that's now an eligible tax credit cost as well. So very quickly, I don't have as great of a detail as Sarah provided for how to actually go through this process, but if your organization would like to claim the commuter tax credit for telework or any of the other options, the first step, similarly, the business needs to be in good standing, and it needs to have a location in Maryland, but there'll need to be an account created through the One Stop portal, and that's at onestop.md.gov. You can go and set up the free account there, and then you would just go ahead and complete the commuter tax credit form through that site, and all you're doing is really documenting, how much of the subsidy you're providing for your employees for all the different eligible options on a monthly basis, and how much of that you're claiming, which would be 50% of what you're subsidizing, up to $100 per employee per month. We don't require, through the One Stop portal, the business is not required to provide documentation, but we definitely encourage your organization to keep good records, so that way, if you were ever asked to demonstrate, how the tax credit was calculated, then you'll be able to do that. And then, you've heard a little bit from Sarah about some of the resources that are available for, telework policies and things like that. But if we also are available through the Commuter Choice program, through our employer partner program, to help any businesses out there that are looking to, build or expand their telework program, or any commuter benefits program. So this is totally free. You can get started through our website, just fill out a brief form, and we'll be in touch. If your business is located in an area where we have commuter program specialists throughout Maryland, then we'll also connect you with them so that you can get even more specialized, localized support. All right, so that's pretty much what we each have. I'm gonna see if we have any questions. Any questions at all? I don't see any questions in the chat box. Let's see. So if anyone does have questions, you can ask it here.
There are some questions about whether there's a match requirement.
I'm sorry, whether there's a match?
Whether there's a match requirement is a question in the chat box.
Oh, great. Well, there is not a match requirement for the tax credit, because it's just providing the credit for the subsidy that the employer is providing. But Sarah, that might be a question for you.
There is not a match requirement.
Great. And there's also a question about whether unemployment insurance is a requirement.
Yes, I stated that previously, that you do have to have at least one W-2 employee, which would then mean that you have an unemployment insurance number.
Okay, great. And there was another question about whether, if any businesses had a telework program in place during COVID, could they still put in for the grant if they wanted to redefine their program into a permanent telework program?
Absolutely. I think especially during COVID, there were so many unknowns, and everybody had to adjust very quickly. So putting a more permanent program into place and again, kind of looking at what your policy may have been, your temporary policy, and comparing it to some of the best practices or the ABCs that the Department of Commerce with other agencies and industry experts have come up with would be helpful. But again, that doesn't have to be finalized until a year after you've received your grant. And again, there are a lot of places that are providing telework options at the moment, but something that they may need is, more updated computers or updated cell phones or a bigger subscription for Teams, Slack, Zoom, all of those different subscription services that we now have. So there's definitely things in place that you may need, that you may already have, but you may need something different.
Okay. I see another question about.
My feeling is if it doesn't hurt to apply. If there's something that we don't understand, if there's confusing for the reviewer, we'll reach out. But also, you may not think you qualify, but you actually might. So it's something that I just don't think it hurts to apply if you're kind of unsure where you are on that.
Sarah, I see another question about whether you want screenshots or some kind of attachment to show how the estimates were derived in terms of, you said 5 Dell computers. Would you want like a screenshot or some backup information of where those estimates are coming from?
Yes, I think a screenshot is fine of, like your Amazon cart or whatever you might be going through for that. That's perfectly sufficient.
Okay. And one more question about whether it's fully state funded, and that might be just because, how different things are funded. That might help people to know if the grant is 100% state funded.
Yes, it is 100% state funded. Previously, we did have this funding and we swapped it out for ARPA funding, so the American Rescue Plan. We were able to use some of our funds to help our county partners provide telework assistance grant programs, but this one is all state dollars.
I don't see any other questions at this point.
I have a question actually, Sarah, for businesses that might not be successful in getting funding this time around. Do you anticipate that this is a program that will be here to stay for a while? Like there'll be potentially more opportunities to apply in the future?
Yes, there is money in the budget for every fiscal year for, I believe, the next 2 or 3 years.
Great. That's excellent. Okay. And I do see that someone has their hand raised. I think we have, oh, this is a new question. Is there a press release that would be appropriate for us to send to the Chambers of Commerce? I'm sorry, did we already get to that question?
If you're talking about for the Department of Commerce, there was a press release that went out, and many of the local chambers of commerce did, well, they all received it, but they also sent them out to their members.
Great, okay. Maybe we can get that and just sort of bunch it up with this, group it together with the slides, so that way when we share the recording in the slide deck, we could have that available too in case anybody hadn't seen it before, would like to see it and share it. Great, okay. I don't see any more questions. So this has been excellent. Thank you again, Sarah, for talking to us about this great telework grant program. We hope you get a lot of really great applications. We hope you run out of money and and have to get that it keeps going on and on. And let's see, I think there's one final question. Oh, how soon will the slides be available? We will try to get them, we'll try to get them posted to the website and on our YouTube channel by the end of this week. It takes us a little bit of time to get that recording together, but should be there, and we can send an email out to everybody that registered for today, so that way you know that they're posted, all the resources are there. Let's see. Okay, and I think with that, we will go ahead and end our webinar for today. And thank you everyone again for joining us. We will look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. And if you do have questions about either program, the Department of Commerce or Commuter Choice Maryland, we will look forward to helping you. I hope everyone enjoys the rest of your day.